Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
G'day and welcome to an extra Commonwealthy edition of Thrash and Treasure, the Torture Chamber musical comedy podcast where Mrs. Brill secretly goes for a booty call with Stacey Jacks. And speaking of a boot, I'm joined as unusual by my curmudgeonly cubic Canadian coffee date, who thankfully doesn't just come from away, he stays there. It's musical theatre radio head honcho, Mr. John Paul Yovanoff. How's it going?
Hey, sadly, that's the nicest thing somebody said to me in like the last 6 months. So thank you.
Certainly the nicest thing I've said to you.
It actually, that is very true. Good point.
No, that's not true. We're very supportive of each other, even though we are arch nemesis.
We are, Mike. We all need our foil of some kind. James Bond has Blofeld. Garfield has Odie. Lasagna has Garfield. Whatever that means.
Guess what? It's you, JP.
What?
What?
I had to get through the script.
We have another legendary West End diva in the Lion's Den tonight. But luckily, lion taming runs in her family because we're about to hear the main pride of Caleon roar. So let's pounce from lions to Wales, from whence this wonderful warbler whisked Charlie Girl and the boyfriend away to Greece to make her West End debut before escaping out of the rain and into the woods, well, Torchwood under Milkwood, to be specific, and then back home to Greece for Mamma Mia, again in London. And if you're confused, try putting it together because it might be the magical spell we're under from today's chosen Witchicals, or maybe a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. Or perhaps it was that most devilish of witches, Mary Poppins, as whom the shining star was seen soaring across the US and UK, serving myths and hymns to the Banks's brats. So please help me scoop up a huge Aussie g'day along with a spoonful of sugar before/after Henry ate the mind of a tyrant. To only the bravest among us, because on her own, her dreams came true when playing the once-in-a-lifetime role of ensemble factory worker, working Epo 9 to 5 in the film version of Les Miserables. So kiss me, Kate, and chuck the 5 kids and it in the back seat with JP so we can go cruising across the City of Angels to Camelot in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang as we drive this dreamy diva into our practically perfect torture chamber where it's curtains up with a spotlight on an incredible career that leaves us all crazy for you. So throw your umbrellas in the air for the superlatively fantaslistic, exponentially hypnotic Queen Caroline Sheen. Yay, welcome to the torture chamber. Oh, I can see movement. Yay, I haven't frozen up.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much. That was brilliant.
Glad you enjoyed it.
I loved it. I've heard Diane's podcast with you, and I remember her saying that there were things you mentioned that she'd forgotten she even did, and that was exactly the same for me. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's what happens when you get old, isn't it, I think?
Now, your introduction was actually very hard to write because Spotlight, in all their wisdom, has decided to stop people from clicking on links and accessing the profiles unless you sign up and pay for it.
Oh, there's a lot of talk about Spotlight at the minute and how difficult it is to access without having to pay through the nose for it. So, yeah, I'm not surprised, and I'm sorry about that.
That's fine. Look, I had to gather information from different places and try to piece it all together, and goodness gracious me.
You had my Amdram shows on there as well.
Yep.
Like Charlie Girl and the boyfriend and everything. That was amazing.
And is it true that your grandmother was a lion tamer?
Well, not my grandmother, no, but my grandfather's grandmother. So my great-great-grandmother was a lion tamer and apparently an elephant tamer as well. And I actually have a photograph on my phone. I've switched it off now. Yeah, there's a picture of her daughter with, at the age of about 2, she's not older than 2 in this picture, and she has baby lion cubs sat on her lap. It's a beautiful sepia-toned Victorian photograph, and there's this beautiful child in the middle of the picture surrounded by the cutest little lion cubs you've ever seen. So yeah, I sort of grew up with it thinking it was a bit of a myth. And then when you see photographic evidence, you're like, oh, okay, that's actual fact. So yeah, she went to America, actually. She toured to America, and she was working with what had originally been Barnum's show, the sort of greatest show on earth company. He'd passed away by then, but this was sort of in the 1880s, 1890s. I think maybe the 1890s. Yeah. So yeah, I really want to research more about her. Actually, I want to find out loads more because there's sort of treasure trove of stuff about kind of circus performers and all that stuff. And I would love to kind of find out, you know, what was her stage name? Nobody seems to know because obviously we're like generations down now. But I'd love to know if it was like a lovely stagey stage name or if it was something kind of, they used to use quite exotic names, didn't they, in the circus, just to make people think that they were far more exciting than they actually were. Because her real name was Mary Ann Blower. So I don't think she used that to entice people to come and see her lion show. So I just really want to find out one day.
Yeah. Wow. I did my research, but I couldn't dig that deep, unfortunately. But back in those days, women weren't allowed to do all that many jobs.
No, exactly. And actually her husband, her husband was her manager. And I think he did something with the show as well.
Okay.
No.
Okay, I'm back now. I it's saying your connection is unstable. I know it's been unstable and we've got Joe DiPietro in the morning.
Oh my god.
Who has, only 2 Tony Awards, and he's working with La Jolla Playhouse at the moment with Matthew Broderick.
Oh wow.
And they said, "Would you like to interview Joe?" Yes, please.
Yes, please.
This has to go well. It's at 8 a.m. where everyone's going to be waking up on their freaking computers and, I'm shitting myself.
Can you like go out of state or something? Can you move somewhere?
Is it all of Australia?
Yeah. We have spiders. I wish I could go to Antarctica where they don't have spiders, but they also don't have internet there apparently. So I don't know.
Or any heat. So
or any heat, that's it. But I want to actually know if I want someone from Antarctica to listen to this show to see if it comes up on our analytics because it's not on the map.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I asked Transistor about it and they said, well, we've never had any listeners on any show on their, their service. Like they've got hundreds of shows. No one from Antarctica. Anyway, this is way off topic. I'm so sorry.
There must be some people working out there that are like, doing stuff with ice and weather and climate that have to listen to a podcast about musical theatre every now and then, surely. Otherwise, what are they doing with their lives?
I know. That's it. But I did tweet a few people, but they ignored me. How rude. Anyways, probably was weird. Like, hi, can you listen to my show? Because I want to know if you exist. Basically, that's what I was saying. Anyways, I know I've frozen up.
Are you there?
Have you gone, Aaron?
Yeah, no, I'm back. It's on 1 bar. Oh no. Okay, well, JP, can you?
No, we haven't.
He's back.
JP, can you take the reins, please? Because I'm drowning. I'm back. I'm back.
So, Caroline, I got a question for you. You've been on tour, you've done things like that, and you know about the rock star riders out there. My question to you is, if you could put together a rock star rider, if you haven't already, I don't know, what would be the craziest thing you put into it?
Chocolate. Aaron's back. I'm just describing my rider, Aaron. So I know I didn't need one on this, but if you could remember this in future, I'd like lots of chocolate, room for my dog, room for my kid, a jacuzzi. Is that, do you think that's doable?
Well, I don't know, because you got to be specific about your chocolate. Because what if you end up with American chocolate instead of like Cadbury's in Britain? Or are you good with anything?
Absolutely. No, absolutely not. No, it has to be Cadbury's.
It has to be Cadbury.
The year that I spent in America, I ate the least amount of chocolate I ever have in my life.
Oh, good. Yeah, tell me about it. Like, and they'll get things imported, but it's made by someone else. So it's basically just rebranded. Like, they get Tim Tams.
Oh, Tim Tams.
Oh, how good are Tim Tams? I'm so glad you know them. Maybe if we all try turning off our cameras, that might help.
Okay, let's try.
Possibly. I'm so sorry. At least I'll know if anything in my introduction offended anyone. Oh, more so you, Caroline.
See, look at my like saver screen is so boring, and you guys have like cool musical theatre stuff on yours, and mine just says my name. How do I do this? I need to work out how to do this.
That's because we are basically prostituting ourselves to anyone who comes through our Zoom. Basically, it's selling our shows.
100%.
100%.
I should have my headshot, my agent's phone number on there, shouldn't I? Really, that's what I should do.
That's it.
Yeah.
Or get yourself a podcast, Caroline.
Oh,
All the kids are doing it.
watch this space. Watch this space.
Awesome. Well, you know that I have a network.
Great.
And I have experience working with West End performers.
Yes, please. I will hit you up for some help. Thanks, Aaron.
Awesome to join our network. Anyways, you picked both albums this week, so I'm guessing you're secretly a headbanger emo kid.
Well, I'm not at all.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
The secret weapon I have is that one of my dear friends from Wales is an absolute musical theatre geek. And she comes and sees every show. She goes to Broadway and sorry, are you hearing that ping? Because I'm getting messaged and I can't work out how to stop it. She goes to Broadway and has like a week where she sees all the newest shows. So a big, huge musical theatre geek at the same time as being the editor of like a massively successful rock magazine. In her bedroom when she was a kid, she had loads of rock bands and sort of soft metalish type bands. Her favorite band growing up was Heart, and now she like has all their phone numbers. She is living her dream. And when everyone used to have iPods, she had an iPod full of musical theatre that she hid from most of her co-workers, I think, and then another iPod full of like all the cool rock stuff. So I messaged her and I went, how can I like sound like I know anything about sort of heavy metal, thrash, anything? And so she sent me a couple of albums to listen to and she said, maybe you suggest some of these. So that's what I did. And because I'm literally, I think Chess and Jesus Christ Superstar are probably about as rocky as I get. I think it scares a lot of people going, oh my God, I've got to talk about heavy metal. Whereas actually it's just, as long as you're honest about it and you don't go, I know everything, it's fine to sort of come on and go, I don't know enough. I would like to know some more. And I will. I'll investigate my heavy metal roots a bit more, I think.
Oh, wonderful. Well, the guest of the episode I just dropped, Dominic Burgess, who is in American Horror Story sleeping with Kim Kardashian at the moment.
Whoa.
Goodness gracious me. I know, right? Like, what? How do you get that gig from Stoke-on-Trent to Kim Kardashian's bed? Anyways, he comes onto the show going, I have to be honest, I'm so anxious being here. I was so anxious listening to heavy metal. I'm like, well, I guess I've done my job then. Anyways, because it's a torture chamber. So
it is.
Anyways,
and it's that thing, the first thing I did, I rang Diane and went, help me with this. What is it like? And she said, oh my God, no, you're going to love it. You have to do it. So, and she's right.
Yeah. Oh,
so
awesome.
everyone come on this podcast.
I'm going to get the album title wrong. I know you picked A Perfect Circle's Mer de Noms, or is it Nom de Mer?
Mer de Noms. I think it's something about a sea of names or names of the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays, nom noms are food. So to me, it's fish food.
It's fish.
JP, you reviewed it.
Yes, I did. I took a listen to the album.
Yes.
Well, let me give you my review of the album. All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right. So when I was told I was going to review the metal album Mer de Noms, which, by the way, translates to Sea of Names, it's French, by the group A Perfect Circle, I was thinking, is this going to be, thrash metal or black metal, death metal, symphonic metal, which I think is awesome. I actually love symphonic metal. But when I started listening, I started thinking, is this even metal? No. Wikipedia, the bastion of all that is true and factual, puts it in the genre of alt rock, hard rock, art rock, and alt metal. And as the game goes, rock beats metal, especially when there are 3 rocks to 1 metal. You've got songs like 3 Libra and The Hollow, which has that alt rock, Soundgarden Nirvana jam sound to it. And maybe that's why they were 2 of the biggest hits off this album. But then you've got the other hit, Judith, which totally has that sound that I more associate with metal. Then you've got something like Renholder, which is like nothing else on the album. It's a short instrumental track with a few vocal moments in it. Totally different than everything else. And for whatever reason, I couldn't get the last song on the album, Thinking of You, to play on Spotify. I don't know why. So I looked it up on YouTube, and the video is something, let's just say, different. let's say. Before I continue, all of you with sensitive constitutions, you might want to cover your ears for about the next 10 seconds. Are they covered? Good. The song is about masturbating to the thought of anal sex. Yeah, right. Now, let's be honest. None of you covered your ears. You heard everything I said. But now that I think about it, they have a pattern with their song's subject matter. The opening song, The Hollow, seems to deal with the idea that sexual desire tends to consume and devour us. And only when we can overcome this sexual desire can we truly be enlightened and permanently fill this hollow, quoteth the Sound Facts registered trademark. Look, I've read online this is a good album, for those who like this sort of sound. For me, it was what it was. It was what it was. It had songs I liked better than others, like 3 Libra. But to give context, I'm more of a George Michael guy. Now, if A Perfect Circle covered I Want Your Sex, I might be more apt to take a listen. And then from the type of subject matter they sing about, I could totally see them covering this song. My rating for Mer de Noms by A Perfect Circle, MA 15 plus in Australia, 15 in the UK, and 14A in Canada, as it contains elements of sex. And there's my review of the album.
What's your stars out of 5, you dork?
Nobody told me 5.
Oh my goodness gracious me.
I get 15 stars out of 5, but with an element of sex rating.
15. Love how you give a disclaimer about talking about dicks on this show. Goodness gracious me.
Hey, I don't know how sensitive your listeners' ears are. They, you people in Antarctica don't like smut, so that's maybe why they're not listening.
The song that you said was about anal sex.
Yeah.
This is what I wrote down without knowing the context of it. I don't know how I missed that. Maybe I wasn't listening to the lyrics properly. I thought I was, but then I actually put could be fun to use for an acting through song piece. I'm thinking that maybe should be not a thing, but yeah, because I clearly missed that in my innocence and naivety.
You know what? So did I. I saw that's what he said in an interview, and yeah, I would not have got it as well. So I'm out of the gutter with you. So no worries.
There was a moment in that song where they sing a really long, sustained, sweet something. And it was quite enjoyable for me to hear a sweet that wasn't followed by a Caroline. So I quite enjoyed that. That was like I think I enjoyed that song the most just for that reason.
Watch the video. It'll totally confuse you even more. So
I'm going to do that straight after this podcast.
Yes, I'm trying to find my pen so I could write it down to watch the video, but I've thrown my pen somewhere in my frustration of the internet.
Oh, no.
Oh, hang on, no, it's under my leg.
There it is.
I should have said something like 4 minutes ago. I might have found it 4 fucking minutes ago. Anyways, Renholder I felt was Lord of the Ringsy.
It was, wasn't it? Rose was quite Lord of the Ringsy, like medievally-esque. I felt like it could be on the soundtrack to some kind of modern retelling of a Shakespeare play. It had that kind of cool but classical feel to it.
Yeah, I didn't mind Rose.
Yeah. I found all the songs like really different. There didn't seem to be any kind of through theme apart from like the names. But I'm such a fan of musicals that I kind of really like to hear lyrics and I like to know what the story is. So when I can't hear what the people are singing about, I get a bit frustrated and I tend to sort of switch off a little bit. So that's always my issue with kind of rock and metal stuff, is that it's all sort of screamy and shouty, but I do love the sort of beats and the rhythms and the sort of the emotive sort of feeling of the music. I just wish I could say, could you do better diction, please? Because I don't understand what you're singing about.
Well, one of my hosts and producers of this show, Matt, he would be living for that comment because he always goes on about the diction because it's just his musical theatre training. This is the sort of music I could have heard at the Bronze, I think.
What's the Bronze?
I'm going to faint.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either.
Oh my God. Oh, what? Oh, my listeners at home, I'm dying.
What have we missed?
From Buffy. It was
from Buffy. Okay.
it was the club that they went to.
Okay.
That's interesting because the first thing I wrote about The Hollow was that everything about it felt quite Dawson's Creaky. It does have that kind of 2000s sort of 90s teen angst beat to it and feel to it, doesn't it? Like Buffy.
Okay, my question, are you a Pacey or a Dawson?
Pacey.
I'm a Dawson girl.
Okay.
I love Dawson.
Pacey all the way. Just have a look at what I used to write notes in.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It's a Dawson's Creek notebook, and it's like a good one.
Do you follow James Van Der Beek on Instagram?
No, but I would love him to come on the show. But anytime any of my guests have worked with Joshua Jackson in their introduction, I'll say like, and they were in Fringe. Joshua Jackson, call me, because he is so pretty. Anyway, sorry. Pacey.
I started following Dawson just like a couple of months ago, and he's really sweet on Instagram. He just is really natural and talks about his family, and he's like really like zen and lovely and just really normal. He comes across as far less stressy than Dawson was. He could be a bit whiny as Dawson, but
I know. Oh my God, I say that all the time. And I was a kid making films when it was on.
Oh
right?
wow,
It started in 98, and I was 13, and I was already writing my first screenplay, which I filmed a couple of years later. So every asshole would say, "Oh, you're just like Dawson, are you?"
No.
And I just wanted to. I didn't want to be a Pacey. I wanted to be a Jen, because she was the awesome one. She was the bad girl.
She really was. She was incredible, wasn't she? Whatever happened to her?
Yeah. I know, right? God, they fade into obscurity. Goodness gracious me. Speaking of obscure, no, this album, I actually did quite like it, but I agree in that it wasn't metal. So I didn't know A Perfect Circle. I've gone in expecting something really if not like that, like real death metal. So I had no idea, and what I got was very emo, which I talk about being a depressive person all the time anyway. So when it's music that's doing that to me, I can struggle with it sometimes. This I didn't, because there was so much variety across the album, which I really liked. And I loved that they named a song after me, Sleeping Beauty. I'd give it a 3.5, I think.
I would agree with that. That's where I kind of sit. It's the kind of thing that I wouldn't, if it came on accidentally on my playlist, I'd be like, okay, I'll listen to this. But I don't think I'd go hunting for it to listen again.
Yeah, and that's sort of the bar we judge a lot of this stuff on, because it's a matter of like, when you see a musical, when you leave that theater, do you want to hear those songs again?
Yeah.
Sort of with all due respect to the book writers, you're not really thinking, oh, I can't wait to hear that bit of dialogue again.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's a big component of this. Is the music good? And it gets brought up a lot. Can we judge the musical on just the album? But if we're judging a band on just the album and not their stage presence or their video clips, then yes, we certainly can. I think, anyways.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because I do find sometimes when I have an album and listen to it before I've seen the show, once I've seen the show, I enjoy listening to the album far more, because now I know what's going on and everything. So I love to be able to contextualize a song and to know where it is. Whereas my husband, for example, he can listen to a show that he's never seen before and just love the music and the production of the music. Whereas I kind of need to know what's going on and why they're singing it and where their journey's going and all that. And that's when I get excited about a song and a musical theatre album. That's when I'll just listen to it forever and ever then after that.
I try not to hear a show before I go see it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I've heard of an album. I heard the whole album and I just couldn't wait to see it, but it just never gets done because I'm in Australia. We don't have Broadway or West End. We don't have 20 theaters in our city. We've got like 4 if we're lucky, or a few more than that.
That's why like half the people in the West End are from Australia, because they all come over here to work and they're all really talented. And I'm like, why isn't musical theatre more of a thing in Australia? Because the people who come over here, like I have dear friends like Damien Humbly, Jeremy Seacombe, Alison Jaya, just all these incredible performers from Australia, and they have to leave their families and their homes and come over here to sort of make their living. I feel sorry and sad that they have to do that, but it means I get to work with them and to see them at work, and it's wonderful. I love Australia. I've been out there once. I came out in the summer the summer that Witches of Eastwick opened. It opened in Melbourne, and I came over to see it, not just for that, but to have a holiday as well. And I just loved it so much. I spent a week in Sydney and a week in Melbourne, and we'd been 2 weeks in New Zealand before that. And as soon as we got to Sydney, I have to go and see some theatre, because we were right in the set. So I saw a play and a musical in Sydney, and then we went to Melbourne and saw Witches of Eastwick. So I was just like, any theatre you had, I would lap it up, but you could have even more. I just wish it was closer. It's the sort of place I'd love to go to for like a lovely city break for a weekend, but it takes a weekend to get to you guys, so can't do it.
Don't take this the wrong way, but if we were any closer to America and England, we would have too many British and Americans in Australia. So
I understand your point. I do. I take your point.
And Canadians. Sorry, JP, you are Canadian. I should have.
That's okay.
Should have thrown you under the bus as well.
We're the forgotten stepchild of the Commonwealth. I know. It's okay.
Yeah, but also, did you say English? Because obviously the Welsh don't count, so that's fine. That's fine too.
Exactly. I didn't say Scottish either, and I didn't say Irish.
So we can all come as long as we want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Anyways, I'm going to move it on to the ad break, and because obviously we've already started talking about the musical.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
No. It's fun. That's the nature of this show. The episode we got coming on with Mig Asa from he was in We Will Rock You, and
Mig.
I had to like literally sit here with my hands on a steering wheel to show the guys I'm getting this train back on the tracks, guys, because otherwise we're going to keep him for 2.5 hours, and we cannot do that. Anyways, and where's my segue to an ad break? It looks like we've come full circle on this album. Perfect. So we're going to go to an ad break. From the producers of Thrash and Treasure, and airing exclusively on the Bloop Network, Around the World in 80 Plays, hosted by the adorable Lizzie B and Alfie Parker, and starring the gorgeous Dolly the dog. They'll take you from city to city, exploring the rich arts and cultural history of the UK and Ireland. New episodes air on Tuesdays, and here is a sneak peek.
Long time no see. Welcome back to the second leg of Around the World in 80 Plays. I'm Alfie Parker, and that's
Lizzie B.
And we're joined as always by our four-legged friend, Dolly the dog.
Woof woof.
After a 2-month break from brand new episodes, we've boarded the bus for Bradford on the 8th stop of the Sister Act UK and Ireland tour.
Lots of Bradford love.
Lots of Bradford loving. Now, moving on to the tour. This week we've been performing in the Alhambra, as I said, and I believe this is Lizzie's moment to shine, to give us an insight.
Are you going to yawn all the way through it this week?
Yeah, last episode I was yawning a lot. This week, I don't think I'll yawn.
Are you going to interrupt me throughout?
Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe.
Let's see how it goes.
If anything really shocks me and I'm like, whoa, then maybe I'll exclaim.
Oh, I can't wait. Right, so, as Alfie said, we are at the Bradford Alhambra Theatre, and I personally think this is one of the nicest theatres in the UK, which always makes it definitely worth going to Bradford. I'm having a lovely time.
Yeah, that's nice.
But I've had quite a cold experience there before because I've always stayed in hotels, like just bog standard hotels. As you said, walked 30 seconds to work, walked home. So I haven't gone out or done anything like that. But this time I'm having a totally different experience. But talking of the theatre, basically my point was the theatre is so nice. So here's my information taken from good old Wikipedia.
Here we go.
The theatre was built in 1913.
Ooh.
And it was built by the architects Chadwick and Watson of Leeds.
Not to be mistaken with Sherlock Holmes and Watson.
Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
This is going to lead on to another thing which Alfie always takes a mick out of me for, because everyone says Sherlock Holmes, but it's got an L in it. So I think it should be Sherlock Holmes.
No, you think it should be Sherlock Holmes.
That's not what I say.
That is what you say.
I say Holmes.
No, you say Holmes. Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes. Lizzie says Sherlock Holmes.
I don't. I say Sherlock Holmes. I hate you so much.
Well,
oh dear.
Yeah, well, there you are.
Word in. I actually say it right.
Lizzie's totally right. But it's a silent... Yeah, it's a silent L.
So it's not Holmes, it's Holmes.
It's a silent L, though, isn't it?
No. It's not silent.
Might be. Sherlock Holmes.
Moving swiftly on. It was opened by theatre impresario Francis Laidler. And before you ask...
Right, sorry, carry on.
I actually don't even know why I bother.
No, I'm
Are you taking
it.
any of this in? Who was it opened by?
Francis Laidler.
Right, before you've asked, I haven't researched him any further, but if anyone would like to...
Yeah, who is he then?
A theatre impresario.
They said that about me. Theatre extraordinaire.
Shout out to Jeremy Seckham, my OG theatre extraordinaire. If anyone knows how you become a theatre extraordinaire, please let us know.
I think I'm on track. I think I could.
Of course you are, dear. Right, more facts for you. The large domed turrets are iconic in the Bradford skyline, and they actually are.
Yeah, they are.
So
Fair play.
it's got 1,400 seats.
Is that it?
Oh, sorry.
No, it sucks because it feels so much bigger.
That's what she said.
Yeah, there we are. It does seem a lot big. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
You do. All right, 1,400 seats.
Start behind the Bradford Alhambra.
Call me the Alhambra.
Here's a cool fact. It was the main location, like the set on the film The Dresser, 1903.
They remake that?
Yeah. No, it was a play. It's been a play recently, but the film with, what's he called? Mooney. Alfred Mooney, is that his name? Daddy Warbuck.
Oh, I don't know.
Do a quick Google, talk amongst yourselves.
Frederick Mooney. Alfred.
Albert Mooney. Women. Albert Mooney. That's him, isn't it?
Anyways, we're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, that's guest co-host JP Yovanoff. Did I say that correctly?
You said JP correctly, yes.
Yovanoff. Hey, at least I didn't say J. Paul. Okay, at least I didn't say J. Paul this time. And we're joined by the perfectly practical Caroline Sheen. Now, speaking of Mary Poppins, before we get onto the musical, she is a bit of a superhero when you think about it.
She isn't she?
She is super and she saves the day. Now, if in an alternate dimension, which of the male superheroes would you love to play on film?
Always Superman. Always. He is the number one superhero for me. I just think he can do everything and anything as long as he's not near that green stuff. And I don't like the color green, so that's good for me. I'm good at avoiding that. So yeah, I think Superman is the way forward.
Yeah. JP, what female one would you play?
Oh man. Maybe She-Hulk would be kind of cool. I'd be interesting to be a lawyer. I've never been a lawyer before, so because you got a day job and you've got a night job. It's kind of.
Yeah. Have you been a Hulk before, JP?
Well, obviously, that's why I'm like, that part I've done. It's the lawyer part that's a be more difficult. I can fight aliens, sure, but you ever walk into court and not know what to do? Yeah. Convincing a jury is a lot harder than it is to punch an alien in the face. So.
I would be Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman because that almost turned me straight when I was a little gay 7-year-old.
I adore that woman. She's phenomenal. Phenomenal Pfeiffer. Can we highlight Grease too? I reckon. She's incredible in Grease too.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Anyways, speaking of Michelle Pfeiffer, I love that we're in a renaissance. I don't know. I can't. So we're doing Witches of Eastwick, the musical.
We are.
Which you were in the original cast on West End.
I was. Yes. It was a very long time ago. It's quite a trip down memory lane to have listened to it. There are some tracks I've listened to a few times, but then there are others I've not listened to, I think maybe even at all. So I've totally forgotten they even existed.
Well, I've reviewed it this week.
Okay.
In my way. I'm not as what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not as what's a word that sounds like I'm not as intelligent as JP, I guess, or as verbose. I'm more idiotic than JP, basically, if that's possible. When first deciding to call upon the Witches of Eastwick, it was only with vague knowledge of the infamous 2002 Melbourne production, which closed after 3 weeks, despite a magical cast and much promotion, and like 3 months of previews. So I enchanted the Spotify to begin, and with the overture fondly remembered the darkly funny film directed by Aussie great George Miller of Mad Max and Babe fame. But as the opening group number, Eastwick Knows, began, I couldn't help but wonder if they'd turn this dark cult classic into a cheery musical comedy. And as the album progressed, my worst fears seemed to play out. For gone is the dark, seductive Daryl, and any quirky subtext swapped out for a standard Broadway sound. As we're introduced to Alex, Jane, and Suki, along with a small array of typical small-town residents, lyrically the songs fit, expressing desire, frustration, and curiosity. But to darken the vibe of the music, even by 20%, would bring these well-constructed songs into the familiar world of the film. Because let's face it, even if this is based more on the book, nobody was watching it thinking of anything other than Nicholson, Sher, Sarandon, and Pfeiffer, 4 actors whose portrayals were grounded, layered, and curious in their own way, without feeling like they were about to break out in jazz hands. I mean, the story has a man kill his wife for vomiting cherry pits, reflecting that darkness within the characters through music, such as they do in Sweeney Todd. Seems like it would have taken this much revised show out of Broadway and into the world of these characters. So as a show, it slightly misses the opportunity to drive into the actual psyche of these fascinating titular witches, as what we do is mostly all surface. And Daryl Van Horn's little town was completely wrong for him. It should have been a seductive, dark, even mysterious introduction to Eastwick's newest neighbor. So it's not a bad show by any means. Yet again, it's a case of turning up the dark, taking it out of the Broadway tourist territory, and let the songs breathe in this world on their own. Or apparently in the little girl's mind. Anyways, more thriller, less sillier, would levitate these wicked ladies from a 3 stars to a 4, especially if the dots between songs are connected accordingly. So mostly the ingredients are there, but where's the blood? Where is the virgin blood sacrifice? So, as I say, there's the makings of a great show there, but I can kind of see why in Melbourne it might have not had... Are people still there?
Yeah.
I didn't lose you. Okay,
Still
that's
there.
all right. Then
Yeah.
I was like, either I've offended you or I've dropped out.
No, not at all. It's really interesting to hear what you're saying, because I was talking about the show earlier to a couple of friends and trying to work out what my thoughts were on it, because, it's something I haven't thought about for a long time. And I absolutely agree that I would love to see a production of this that was, normal people in their jeans and their jackets going about their day, that suddenly Daryl Van Horn is conjured up and turns all their lives upside down and into chaos, rather than a town full of musical comedy caricatures.
Yes.
Where somebody like that turning up would be just something that happens once a month. Do you know what I mean? Or it's not a surprise. I think that's maybe where I think that show could go, definitely sort of nowadays, if it was being done again. I think they were almost a little bit before their time with regards to doing a musical comedy. When we first opened it, I think it was 2001, it was when all the shows in London were still trying to be Les Mis or Miss Saigon. We had like Napoleon, Lautrec, La Cava, all these kind of pseudo Europop musicals that were still very tragic, and people died and there was blood and all that kind of thing. And our show ended up being this kind of antidote to that. But I think perhaps it was the wrong topic matter to do something so sort of comical with something quite dark. The book, I don't know if you've ever read the actual book of Witches of Eastwick by John. Oh my God, it's horrible. Like, instead of the sort of cherry pit spitting thing, he gives people cancer and things like that in it. It's really like, not your typical musical comedy fodder at all. But I think, I remember Mel Brooks came to see the show, and I sort of like to think that might have inspired his idea to go, oh, this could be a good Broadway show, because it was when Producers opened that suddenly musical comedy became cool again. But I totally understand what you're saying with regards to the tone of it. I think it was just they wanted to be a comedy so much that maybe it just misrepresented the material slightly.
Yeah, and I think that's a shame, because we had already Into the Woods and Sweeney Todd, which granted they're the same person, but they are darkly funny.
Yes.
And very, very musical. And that's why I mentioned to connect the dots between the songs, because then you're taking it out of that, immediately taking it out of that standard Broadway, here's some dialogue, break out into song.
Yeah.
Darken the tone. Like, look what they've done. I believe you saw it recently with Diane, because I spoke to her the morning that you went and saw it. We recorded with her for Around the World in 80 Days. 80 days, 80 plays at Sunset Boulevard. They've turned that into something incredibly dark without...
Yeah, it's almost like they've changed the style of the show rather than the essence of it. It's what I think could happen to Witches of Eastwick if they just sort of reassessed the tone and the style. I think that it has lots of potential, because I think, the songs are really catchy. And if they're sung by people that are in a slightly different mood, it might change that tone a bit. I have to say, it was a joyous experience to be in the show. It was my first ever job for Cameron Mackintosh. And I don't know about you guys, but I grew up obsessed with that documentary about Miss Saigon. Do you remember? Did you ever watch the documentary about the making of Miss Saigon?
No.
It's like a cult classic over here. You have to watch it. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. Literally put it in, the making of Miss Saigon. You see them going out to the Philippines to find their cast. You see Lea Salonga auditioning for the first time, and she's like 17 and just like an angel. And then you sort of see it through rehearsals, into the theatre, into opening night. And then you're going into Cameron's offices for they're reviewing the show, and they're looking at all the newspaper reviews. And I literally know that off by heart. And suddenly I was in it. I was going to audition in front of Cameron Mackintosh. We did the read through in his offices. We opened in the same theatre. And I was just living my absolute musical theatre stagey dreams. And I had an absolute ball. And I was only 24. I was, my musical theatre taste went massively refined, but I loved it. And I think it was an interesting time to open a big, splashy Broadway comedy musical in London. And I don't think it's ever been done in New York. I think they got close to it by doing it in the theatre that Eric Schaeffer ran in DC, or just outside DC, the Signature Theatre in Arlington, I think. They did a version of it there, and he was our director in the UK as well, so he knew it backwards. And yeah, it just didn't hit the mood. And then when we went into our second cast, and we moved theatres and changed the show slightly, and obviously 9/11 happened, and that was it. Then nobody was touring, nobody was coming into London. Everybody, even here, were staying away from some kind of big places, and it closed a lot of shows, and we got our 2 weeks notice. But I had 16 months of a great time on it, so I can't complain really.
Yeah. You watched the Melbourne production.
I did.
Got to see that production. How lucky were you that you got in there in that 3 weeks?
Wow. Did it close that quickly? I had no idea. Wow.
Something like that. It was a big disaster.
Wow. I was out there on holiday basically. And because it was the same production, it's the exact same production that we did. And so I stayed with some of the creative team when I was out there just for that week in Melbourne. And I went to the opening night and I met my lovely friend Penny, who played Jennifer, which was the character I played.
Yep.
And we stayed in touch loads. We played loads of the same parts in musical theatre. It's like quite unbelievable how we've kind of paralleled each other's careers. I mean, what I wouldn't have given to be in Home and Away, that would have been very cool, but I haven't done that yet. What was ironic was that when I got to Melbourne and met my friend who I was staying with, he was like, do you know who's here? And I said, no. And Rosie Ash, who played my mother in London in Witches of Eastwick, she played Felicia. She had been flown over to Melbourne to take over from, I think, a lady called Geraldine who had got ill. So they needed somebody who knew the show and who knew it. And she'd been nominated for an Olivier for that award, for that role. So they flew her over and she ended up being in it for 2 or 3 weeks while the lady got better or while her understudies got trained up. So yeah, I ended up being there with the woman who played my mum as well, which was very cool. Watched her on stage, which was, it was a really special little holiday. So yeah.
Oh, wonderful. And especially a part that you originated as well, to see it in another country. It is something we talk about with Broadway performers when they've created roles and seeing other people, take that on.
Yeah, it's really lovely, actually.
JP, I'll get your thoughts on it in just 1 second. I just want to throw in a couple more things here and then I'm going to shut up and listen to you talk. I'm not going to shut up. Okay, so this film was at a time where there was a lot of high concept, dark comedy thrillers, really, about strong, powerful women. You had She-Devil, you had Death Becomes Her, you had Witches of Eastwick, you had Is It My Stepmother is an Alien? I believe that was a bit of a dark comedy as well. So you had sort of all these high concept films. And I know Death Becomes Her is going to be a musical. Now this worries me because if you're going to have someone looking like their head has been twisted around on stage and you want it to look real, you're going to have a good portion of your audience feeling sick while they're watching that. Because think about it, people will go see a horror movie and feel sick. And something like the Saw movies, people walk out of them because they feel sick. So how are they going to go watching Death Becomes Her with the character with her head twisted around? They'd have to make it look cartoonish, you'd think.
Wait, are you saying I have to abandon my Saw the musical?
That's already a parody musical, would you believe? Someone's already...
Yeah, no.
Seriously, there's nothing better than creating your own characters and seeing other people fall in love with them. I had a child dress up as one of my characters from my novel. That's the greatest thrill ever.
That's very cool.
Anyways, again,
you don't want people vomiting in the aisles then in musicals.
Yeah, that's what all that was about. It was about Death Becomes Her. No, you don't want that. Yeah. So they're gonna have to do it, making it look cartoonish, I think, so that people. It's like the blood in Kill Bill. It's very red, so that people don't feel sick at how much blood there is.
Yes, it's everything's sort of heightened, isn't it? So your belief is suspended, but not that suspended that you're going to actually vomit.
Yeah, that's it. So, JP, your thoughts on this musical? Sorry.
Well, I've known about this show for a while now. I obviously listened to the cast recording a long time ago, and I really loved it. Of course, I do love Dana Rose. Zombie Prom, I love that show. It's silly, it's fun. So I've already had a proclivity towards his music. So when I heard Witches of Eastwick, I loved it. You know what? I've not seen it. I've not seen the movie. I've not read the book, so I know nothing about it. I just basically know what I've listened to. And we talked earlier about listening to cast recordings before even. That's all I do. With musicaltheaterradio.com.
Plug.
So yeah, that's all I do is listen to them. And, I play a bunch of these songs already on the radio. You know what? I had to disagree with you a little bit, Aaron, about I Love This Little Town, being a bit darker. It's right at the beginning of the show. I don't think you can't start dark and then go darker. I think I see Daryl. No, I see Daryl as Harold Hill. He's an eviler Harold Hill. And that's how I see it. And when I hear it, that's when you go darker, because you got to get this town liking you first. You got to trick them. It's basically the Music Man, but with witches. I think it's really cool. I like that. I would love to play Daryl one day on stage. That would be fantastic because those songs are so much fun. Yeah, that's my thing. I really like that. I know I haven't seen it on stage until, like you said, until you see it on stage, you don't know how it works, and maybe it should be darker. But the whole blood thing as well. You were talking about American Psycho. There's a butt ton of blood in that. Whenever they do it, so I don't know.
Basically, we ran for 16 months, and there are about 4 different versions of the musical because it kept changing all the time because we didn't get great reviews, so people just kept tinkering with it. And then in the first cast change, we had Clark Peters come in. Do you know Clark Peters? Wonderful actor. He was in a thing called, is it Boardwalk Empire? And I think he might have been in The Wire as well on television. And they changed the song at the end of the show. There's a song called Who's the Man, and they changed it for Clark, and they changed it to this gospel number called The Glory of Me. So if you can find that on YouTube as well, that's a wonderful song. It then became sort of slightly less misogynist and more about somebody who was amazing because he was the devil, not amazing because a bloke with a big dick, So it kept changing and changing. And I found that was what was interesting when I was listening to it, going, oh my God, that didn't last long. And I mean, there were 2 songs that were cut in previews. I lost a solo, and Rosie Ash lost a solo as well. We're obviously both devastated, but you understand it because you're like, this show it's not working, so we've got to change things, and I've got to bite the bullet. And actually they replaced it with a little reprise that ended up being far funnier. And like you said, it's almost like he's this puppet that they've conjured up, and I love a little town. He's taking all the residents of the town and making them all dance to his tune. And then that goes further then in the second act with Dance with the Devil. Like you said, if it's embedded in reality, then that's really exciting. But I think if you are going to have a town full of like cartoonish characters, that's where it's not going to be as much fun. So I think that's something that, I'm sorry, I'm absolutely repeating myself now and boring myself. But, that's what I've always kind of thought about it. I always we were all kind of color coded in our costumes. I was pink, my friend was green, somebody else was orange. So it was beautiful to watch. It was a really beautiful thing to watch and bright and colorful. But I feel like that it should have got bright and colorful, a bit like Oz. When Daryl Van Horn enters, it's like we're suddenly in Oz, like in The Wizard of Oz, which, I'm sorry, was absolutely a dream, because I heard your podcast with Diane Pilkington. It's absolutely a dream. It's a total fantasy dream. And I'm sure people were saying it's not a dream, but I'm absolutely convinced it's a dream.
Yeah. How the fuck does she get that house from Munchkinland to Emerald City and then back?
Absolutely.
Hello. Like it is clearly a dream, obviously. And Uncle Henry is dead. Like I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Like I'll go along with the fantasy of it, sure. But in reality, no, you're absolutely right. Anyways. Okay, now just a few rebuttals there, JP. The Harold Hill thing, I think you totally could have done that as a darker number, because you don't need to have him interacting with the people. They could all be frozen and he is seducing them with this song. It could have a slow build up or something. It didn't need to be jazz hands, I'm going to tap dance right now. And I think also the focus on him winning over the town in that Harold Hill way, I think was also misplaced. The focus should have been on the Witches of Eastwick and him developing the relationship with them and manipulating them, and them turning the tables. As I say, I haven't seen the complete Community production that I watched on YouTube, so I don't know the ending. Yeah, no, I'd love to hear it darkened up and hear if it changes my experience with the show. I think
we need to kind of do what they did to like Starlight Express years ago and like revisit it and reorchestrate it and revamp it, and let's see how it works in sort of the 21st century now, I guess. I mean, it was the 21st century, but very early on. Let's see where we are now, like 23 years later.
It was a totally different time then.
It really was.
You couldn't darken it then and it wouldn't work. It would probably have closed way faster. Now, if you darken it,
do you think?
Our society, yeah, I think so. Our society's ready for this now. We are much darker, more accepting of that sort of thing now than in the 2000s.
And like you said, like the three powerful women in it that's very now, isn't it? It's all about kind of the Me Too movement and women taking back control. So that could be really cool. You know, even though they're trying to summon their perfect boyfriend and it goes slightly wrong, that kind of fall into the kind of seduction that he brings, and then the reality check that actually, no, this is totally wrong. It could really, really work these days. They did a big concert of it last year. They kind of brought back like a one-off concert of it last year, which I didn't go to. So I'd be interested to know how that kind of felt, really, to see how it is now, sort of a gazillion years later. I'd be playing my own mother now, I think. I'll go in and do it. I recently did 9 to 5. I did 9 to 5 recently, and that felt very Witches of Eastwick to me, and probably a similar era of film, actually. But it had 3 leading ladies and 3 different ages, and I did feel very Alex as Violet in 9 to 5. I was kind of living my Alex dreams in that. It was lovely to be part of a triumvirate,
Yeah, awesome. I was going to say, last thing, Paul McDermott, the Aussie guy who played Daryl Van Horn. I remember when he was first cast for it, it was perfect because he's got that cheeky, devilish quality about him. I know you guys probably wouldn't know who he is, but he did a comedy show in Australia called Good News Week, where it was basically, taking the piss out of the week's news and stuff like that. It was very funny, and he was very cheeky in it. So it was a sort of a perfect casting of him being in the role. And Pippa Grandison from Muriel's Wedding, classic Australian film, as well as a cast of Australian stars. But anyways, we're going to move it on because we are running over time now. Where's my thingamajiggy, my segue? Oh no, I've handwritten it. That's right. Well, it looks like words. Ad break. G'day, listeners. Aaron here. While you're topping up your coffees, did you know that you can support our show and go on a fantastically scary adventure at the same time? Go to www.thetonistantales.com/bookstore to grab your copy of The Toniston Tales, a darkly funny Aussie trilogy about a young boy who rescues injured animals in his spare time and the roller coaster ride he's taken on by a literal fish out of water. Written by me, the village idiot of Thrash and Treasure, you'll come to love Toniston Turnbull and the dozens of wacky characters that he meets along the way. And here is a sneak peek. Landing with a thud that echoes throughout the whole cottage, Toniston instantly rips off the manky shoes gifted to him by Milfred and tosses them into the corner behind a blue barrel. Without a second thought, the bully races down the hallway to the backmost room of the house and leaps behind his uncomfortable makeshift hay bed, then waits, and waits, and then waits some more, until finally, what seems like an eternity later, muffled growls start vibrating through the thin walls of Cubpaw's cottage. He tries to control his breathing, but his heart is racing way too fast. Toniston ducks down further. Nothing should be able to see him, but he can't be sure they won't smell him. The gruff growling grows louder. Toniston presses his ear against the cold, chipped, chalky wall. He thinks he can make out phrases like, "Where is it?" and "Give us the merge," though not much else. It's all too mumbled, and he's shaking too much. But it doesn't matter anymore. The front door of the cottage slams open with a harder, louder cracking thud than it ever had before. A dozen or so stomping footsteps enter. The cottage shakes uncontrollably as if it is as terrified as our friend the bully is. Toniston panics. He's trapped in a corner with a slew of sharks on his trail. He makes a sudden rash decision. Ripping aside the thick animal hide curtain, Toniston leaps through the small oval-shaped window head first, landing on a crate filled with hay sitting outside it. Mustering every ounce of manliness he has not to react verbally as he lands with a crunch on the sharp, pin-like hay. It pierces his skin in several places, but thankfully, in his panicked state, the bully becomes numb to the pain. Counting his blessings but not his chickens, Toniston struggles out of the crate by throwing his legs over and levering himself up, causing the coral underneath his feet to snap. He loses balance and tumbles. To describe the pain of tumbling face first down a steep hill of hard, sharp, deadly-shaped coral would require far too many swear words than this author would be allowed to publish, so let's just say it hurt. A lot. With one last somersault, Toniston's legs fly first over the cliff's edge. Crunch. His left hand grabs hold of the outmost jagged knob of coral. The stocky body of the 10-year-old child sways rapidly back and forth like some sort of death-defying pendulum. He gasps for air, or from shock, not even Toniston can tell. All he knows is above him a deadly coral cliff and deadlier sharks. Below him, larger, sharper coral under a sea of giant, sharp spikes of natural metal. His head throbbing and vision too blurred with bright red splotches to be able to see clearly for too long. His face is dripping with blood. It runs down his shirt front, tickling him in the process. But all he can do is swing there. It's moments like these that a boy really needs his mum. Unfortunately, while Toniston's life hangs in the balance, on Earth his life was, dishonestly, being celebrated by all at Gumbaya Primary School after news of the bully's disappearance had spread like wildfire through the tiny town, then onto the music industry before eventually reaching the wider world. Rock music fans, specifically those of Muzzletop, had flocked to the outskirts of Melbourne, leaving wreaths, band posters, and hand-drawn tributes to honour the missing son of their favourite singer. Although none of them knew the boy, many had seen him standing on the side of the stage of the band's concerts alongside Tina. Also, at the time of his disappearance, hundreds of the world's entertainment media lined the streets outside the school and, sadly, outside Tina's house. Wanting any word they could get their greasy hands on, the gossip came in thick and fast as snide, bored neighbours took it upon themselves to speculate and make up stories for their 5 minutes of fame. Inside the house, the phone ringing 10, 15 times a day from nosy TV stations, hounding the poor, terrified mother, there was no escape. And whilst Tina was never polite in her declination, still they persisted. "Call me again and I'll punch you in the nose," she promised. The school's principal, Mr. Patterson, had himself realised how cold and nasty it would look if Toniston Turnbull's former victims didn't at least pretend to mourn his disappearance. And thus, with an added paranoia of becoming a suspect, Mr. Patterson set out to overcompensate with memorials and dedications to the boy who touched all our lives with his love of animals. Mr. Patterson felt satisfied his school's image was intact. The largest memorial from the school came in the form of a service in the gymnasium. With every student, teacher, news reporter, and local police in attendance, Mr. Patterson sought to show the world just how much Toniston had meant to the school. The service would have made the bully puke. From the awful school choir butchering his least favourite songs to the obnoxious releasing of the White Doves, Mr. Patterson may have been satisfied his memorial service paid tribute, but Toniston is far too cynical for that. And yet, whilst hundreds of people sat on the cold plastic seats in the Gumbaya Primary School auditorium, not one person in attendance truly knew Toniston when he was around. But all alone, in her large house, the animals all shunned outside, Tina Turnbull sits with her umpteenth glass of wine, ignoring the umpteenth phone call from friends, fans, and family, but most sad of all, wondering, for the umpteenth time, what she could have said to her only child to have brought the two of them closer together. A now broken photo of Trent Turnbull and an infant Toniston, only hours after his birth, sits at her feet under the table. Tina simply doesn't care about the million tiny shards of glass cutting up her feet. She just wants her son back. And as if joined at the soul, while dangling from the lavender-coloured dead coral cliff face, somewhere in his head voice, Tina's cries are heard by the boy. His face scrunches up, but then it relaxes. I can do this. Grab your copy of The Toniston Tales from thetonistonTales.com/bookstore today. Hooroo! And we're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, that's guest co-host JP, and I've lost my thing again. We're joined by the practically perfect Caroline Sheen. I just got a few questions about your hopes and dreams for the future. So we're going to start off with one I've been asking lots recently. What's one normal, everyday thing that everyone else can seem to do perfectly well, but you fail miserably at?
Make a pancake.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't make a pancake. And my child loves them. And I'm absolutely used to it. Pancakes and omelets. Anything you have to get out of a frying pan, no, I can't do it. And so that's something I can't do. Although I did buy a crepe maker. So it's a bit better now because it is already flat. So it's easier to flip over. So I'm getting better. I'm working on it, improving my skills.
Yeah. What about you, JP? Like for me, it's I cannot keep control of my pens. As you noticed, I've already lost it once in this time.
Look under your leg.
There is literally 20 around the vicinity somewhere. I cannot tell you where they are because I fall asleep and I wake up and they're gone. A strange lump in my throat for some reason. Anyways. Sorry, JP.
I don't know. I'm practically perfect too. Small talk. I'll be honest. People, or at least it seems that way with people when you're in groups and people are just. I'm like,
Yeah.
It's not a great answer, but you know it is the truth. I just can't do it, and I do a podcast, so imagine.
Yeah, that's it. Look, we've had coffee that many times, and it's never been a. So, how's the weather?
No, it's not.
It's like if they're not talking about musicals, you've got nothing to say.
No, it's just literally just me sitting there talking like 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like 80-20 talking. If I was a body part, it'd be an ear. So.
That's it. JP, you got...
Do I have a question? Of course I do. And this goes back to Eastwick. You know, one of the songs in Eastwick is called Dance with the Devil. Now, what kind of dance do you think that might be? Like the lambada, the forbidden dance? Or something like the hokey pokey or the chicken dance, which I believe are actually minor tortures in hell. And do you like dancing?
It's dancing as me, I do not do. If you ever see me on a dance floor, you'll know that I am incredibly drunk because I just hate dancing. I will do it if I'm told the steps, obviously, and if there's a choreographer and I can blag that as much as I can. Obviously, I danced a lot in Mary Poppins and Crazy for You and a little bit in 9 to 5. You know, I've done dancey shows. But if the Dance with the Devil for me would be any kind of dance where I'm just me, that would just be horrendous, and I would be screaming.
Well, you brought up the Macarena, Aaron. Would you feel more comfortable if we were all doing the exact same moves, like line dancing, and then you'd fit in nicely? Or
yeah, because there's a structure then, right? There's rules,
right? Yeah.
Maybe if it's the Nutbush, but that's an Australian thing. The Nutbush City Limits?
Yeah, the Tina Turner stuff.
Yeah, we have a dance to that in Australia.
Oh, cool.
If that ever goes on at a wedding, a party, a school disco, or anywhere, you know people are going to be on the floor doing the little leg things or the out, in, knee, kick, whatever it is. I can't do it with my arms, obviously. Yeah, so, but it's only an Australian thing.
I'm Googling that again. That's on my list of things to Google now.
What's it called?
The Nutbush Dance.
The
Nutbush City Limits Dance. Part of the reason why Tina Turner loved Australia is because we loved her, and we even had our own line dance to it. Anyways, it's not my interview.
Sorry.
Tour accommodation, because I hear a little birdie tells me that you have a lot of opinions about the UK tour accommodation setup and performers having to book their own accommodation.
The touring situation over here in the UK is not great. We're not given a huge to tour. I've not toured a huge amount here, only Mary Poppins. And that was literally 3 big sit downs. We were like 6 weeks in Plymouth, 3 months in Birmingham, another few months in Edinburgh, and then I finished. But, you know, I got out to America and they give you a list. You get 2 huge hotels to choose from. It's part of the job. Whereas over here, it feels like it's something that you've got to do yourself. Whereas in the productions over there, they help you. It's part of the kind of the nurturing side of the production. They help you find places to live. And that's not something that happens over here. And I do know there's a couple of people that are quite vociferous about it and are trying to get a campaign with Equity to make sure, I think people have turned up to like Airbnb and the owner's gone, actually, we changed our mind. You can't stay here. We've got someone who's going to pay us more. So, and they're literally on the streets of Sheffield or Northampton or something going, well, where are we going to go? Because we thought we booked this months ago. And then there's just not a huge amount of safety. And I think, especially with quite a lot of the tours are full of people who are doing their first jobs and are young and probably quite vulnerable and not really, don't know a huge amount about living on their own yet. And, I just think that a little bit more care needs to be taken of actors, I think, and the company in that situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also a health issue there because you don't want to be, I think, Diane, Lizzie and Alfie might have spoken about it in episode 5 of Around the World in 80 Plays, exclusive to the Bloop Network, in terms of going to a place that might have like mold in the walls or in the bed, in the mattress and stuff like that. And you're a singer, you don't need mold in your lungs, people.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it. Why, with all due respect to the producers, and I get like, the money and stuff like that. And these touring productions are a massive thing. That's what the whole show, well, that's half of what Around the World is about, is that they're touring sister act around. Right. And so the audience is getting that firsthand, account of touring the orchestras, touring all the sets, touring the stage floor and all that stuff and all the technical stuff and all this jazz.
Amazing.
And everyone should be a priority, because what's the point in having all those sets and lugging all that around the country and then saying to your actors, I will meet you there, or saying to your orchestra, we'll meet you there.
Oh, yeah. There was one situation in America. It was the first time I'd flown I joined the tour in Los Angeles, but I didn't start performances till we got to Arizona. We went to a place called Tempe in Arizona. I flew there, and then I was with my husband then, and then he flew home, and the next stop was Denver. And I'm there ready to fly, and there's a few of us flying, so it's all paid for. The producers are there, they sort all that out. But they do this thing where they overbook the flights, and they said, oh, sorry, you don't have a seat, to me. And the company manager, a guy called Randy, his face just went white. He was like, no, we need her. She is Mary Poppins. She has to fly to Denver. And so I think they literally paid a couple to miss their flight so that I could get on the flight to go there. Whereas I think if I hadn't been with him and it hadn't been part of the company policy, over here, that would have been an absolute disaster.
You've been absolutely screwed. Now, why didn't you just open your umbrella?
I'm not allowed to do that in public.
I know, it's America. They'll go on a freaking witch hunt, wouldn't they?
Exactly.
Anyways, we actually got a fan question sent in.
Ooh.
So what animal were you in Animal Studies? And this comes from Queen Diane Pilkington.
Diane, I'm going to kill her. This was the worst mark I got in college. And the setup was you had to study an animal for a term, and then you had to write a monologue as that animal, and you had to perform as the animal, and then the animal had to become human and deliver the monologue. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite a bouncy person. So I decided I'd be a kangaroo. Okay? I was a kangaroo. Yeah. Now, typical for Australia, that's nice. I was, it works well for this podcast, but it did not work well on the day of the assessment because they had polished the floor of the dance studio.
Sure.
So I was doing my best bouncing and sliding around all over the place. And it was just an absolute disaster. And not only that, I stood up and about 3 people before me had got up and said, hello, I'm so-and-so, I'm going to be a panther. And then someone else got up and said, hello, I'm so-and-so, I'm going to be a panther. And I literally got up and said, hello, I'm Caroline Sheen, I'm going to be a panther. No, I'm not. I'm going to be a kangaroo. So it already didn't start well. Then I slipped and slided all over the place. And then my monologue was obviously shit because You know, I'm not a screenwriter or a script writer of any sort. And I got a D- for my animal study. I think I probably did the worst out of everybody. So I'm thrilled that Diane has let me put that down for absolute, you know, future audiences to learn from and learn what not to do for animal study.
Love you, Diane. Thank you so much. I'm so glad because it was only a few hours ago I tweeted her. I said, "Did you want to submit a fan question or secretly?" As soon as you said the floor had been waxed, all I could picture was you jumping and then just boom, flat on your ass.
I used to do ice skating. You'd think I'd have had a bit of technique, but no, it was not good.
No. This is why kangaroos have tails behind them that drag on the floor because it stops them from falling back on their ass.
And see, we weren't in costume, you know. If I'd had a tail, it could have helped. But no, we were just in our leotards and our shiny tights.
Oh no, that is...
No, it was not good. It was not good at all.
That is wonderful. Now, okay, if you could have kind of segueing there, if you could have a part written for you, what, where, why, how, what character, what would you want?
Oh, it would be Welsh. You'd have to be Welsh. Funny.
Yeah.
Nice few belty notes in there, but not too many because, you know, 8 shows a week and all that. Love interest, played by Colin Firth, please. Or my darling husband, obviously, but I'd actually rather Colin. And maybe it could actually be a Jane Austen musical, and I could still be young enough to be the love interest of that, the sort of young heroine. You know, AI and all that, it could work. So yeah, something like that. Something Welsh, romantic, and historic. I'd quite like that, please.
Yeah. And high society and possibly a little bit devilish because all Jane Austen's characters were a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit mischief.
I believe. That's it. Anyways, I only got 2 more questions here. So JP, I'm
curious. You played Mary Poppins. So did you go the method actor route? Have you ever tried a spoonful of sugar?
I haven't tried a spoonful of sugar, but I was that kid, and I have to admit I still am that kid who, if there are sugar cubes in a sugar bowl in front of me on a table in a restaurant, I will eat them. So I've tried a few sugar cubes.
Your dentist loves you.
And my teeth aren't too bad, so that's not quite. I'm all right. So yeah, I'm not a spoonful of sugar, but a cube full of sugar is my way forward. Yeah, but no. So I think with method acting is a bit. Not that I know that was not what the question was, but what I loved about Mary was that there's so many different ways you can play her, and when you have to do it in different theatres, in different areas of the world, then it's to be able to go, do you know what, I'm going to make her a bit more snooty tonight, or tonight I'm going to make her a bit softer or more mischievous. There was so many different ways, because she actually doesn't change at all during the show. I remember the director saying to me, as a protagonist, she's actually really dull because she starts exactly the same place as she ends. She hasn't been changed. Maybe she's softened slightly because of that. There's a lovely moment with Michael Banks at the end, but she is the same. She's changed everybody else. So it was quite nice to sort of find ways to change my performance rather than change the character during the evening, you know?
Yeah, I do find it quite cold. I've always thought that. Now, sugar sandwich. White bread, butter, and sugar.
Sugar sandwich.
Wow, beautiful, right? It is delicious.
I'm adding that onto my list of things to do after this podcast. Sugar sandwich.
Yeah, but even better, fairy bread.
What's that? Something Australian that I don't know about.
Sprinkles. Yeah, it's Australian. Like hundreds and thousands, or sprinkles, whatever you call them. Not the little round balls, because they're too hard. You want the little longer ones, like the little that look like little.
Yeah, like the ovally things.
Yeah,
little lines.
Yeah. Like like that, like the little tubes of sugar, basically. Fairy bread. If you look it up, it's like a whole staple of children's parties in Australia. You go there's going to be fairy bread.
Amazing.
Bread and butter with sprinkles on it. It is so good. Oh my God. Even now as an adult, I will still have them, even though I probably shouldn't because I'm an adult.
Speaking of Australia, right, and children, can we also, I know this is massively digressing, we don't have time. Can we also mention how amazing kids' television is from Australia?
Yes.
Like, first of all, there's a thing called Little Lunch, which adults can watch as well as kids because it's the funniest program. There's a thing called, what's it called? The Investigators or Investigators, that's similar to Little Lunch. Very, very funny. And now Bluey. I'm sorry. I mean, my kid's too old to watch Bluey now, but it's still on because I still love it. And it's just brilliant. You guys have got it nailed down there. It was brilliant.
With Meg Asa on the show, which is probably aired by now, he was in a kid show growing up called The Ferals.
Oh, wow.
Like the Muppets, but they were feral, basically, and would like whack each other with a frying pan and be like, you stupid dimwit, I hate you and stuff. And they cheated on their school tests and all this stuff like that. It was not a show they're going to have now because it influenced kids to be feral, but we loved it.
The other thing I was going to say was that I worked with Philip Quast, who we did Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum together. And we found out that he was a big kids TV presenter back in the day in Australia. Yep. Somebody found some footage of him and got it sent over for Australia for us. And on our last matinee, we put up a big TV right where you go onto the stage, like not backstage, but just before you get backstage. We put it up in the hallway and we were playing him singing as a dinosaur, like on a loop. And we thought it was hilarious. And we were like, oh, he's gonna be so embarrassed. He's gonna come out and be like, oh my God, you guys are embarrassing me. He came out and he was like, yeah, look how fucking brilliant I was. He was so proud of it. And we were just like, oh, I love that man. He was absolutely brilliant. And it was just joyous to see him like doing that kids stuff. I was just like, I'm not surprised like all you Australians are just awesome because you grew up watching Philip Quast being fabulous. So, standard.
And really. Simon Burke as well.
Oh, really?
And Simon Burke.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was Play School. You had that in the UK.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. 20 years ago. Our Australian version is still on air 60 something years later.
I'm so envious.
Simon was on it for 20 years. Simon Burke's been on this show twice now. So literally like these guys taught me to read and taught me the ABCs and all that jazz, 1, 2, 3, and all the nursery rhymes and read to me and all that jazz. And
that's so cool.
I know, right? I'm going to cross off the stage door question. Sorry. So we'll have to talk about that. Another time we'll have to have you back, please.
Yes, please.
We'll have to have you and Diane back.
Together.
When we have 5 hours spare, I'll have the two of you all together. The leading question. Home and Away or Neighbours?
Oh, well, I've got to say Home and Away, haven't I? Because of Penny. But also, I played opposite Jason Donovan in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So I guess I could. Oh no, see, I'm stuck now. I loved them both, but I think Home and Away. Yeah.
Well, lucky I asked that at the end of the show and not at the start, or it would have been a very short show.
I think because it's got
Melbourne.
The beach and it's beautiful and it looks like a glorious place to live. So you didn't see the beach much in Neighbours. It was felt more suburban.
Yeah, no, it is. I
feel like Home and Away showed Australia off a bit more.
Yeah, and their bodies pretty much. But
I wouldn't know about that.
Well, I haven't watched Home and Away in ages, but Dominic, the guy that I've just posted the episode of, he's so into Australian soaps and he actually goes into his Australian accent in the episode.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm so proud. I am so proud. So does it say he's like literally just been sleeping with Kim Kardashian on American Horror Story?
So is she in American Horror Story then? Or are they dating in real life?
No, she's in the show.
Okay.
She's acting.
Wow, I did not know. They can do anything, can't they? They have the ability to just make it happen. That'd be a nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a nice power to have.
Tell me about it. Tell me about. Well, they should use their power to get me an A-lister on this show. How about that?
There you go. Get him to get Kim Kardashian on. Get her to talk about musical theatre. Oh. I honestly don't think if Kim Kardashian knocked on my door, I don't think I'd know who she was. It's something that's totally passed me by. And video games, to be honest. I played Super Mario and stuff when I was a kid, but that's about it.
Well, actually, I had a question of what musical would you love to see as a video game?
Oh, I think something like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat with all the brothers, and you could shoot them all or something like that, or they all have. they're the ones you all have to. If you can't shoot Joseph, but you can shoot all his brothers.
And you get to fight a goat.
Yeah.
I'd love to play Little Shop of Horrors because you could do it like a sim game where you got to start a flower shop and you got to keep it going and you got to go around the town and try to find strange and interesting plants. But if you get the wrong one, it's going to eat you all.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, see, I don't know Sims. I was literally just going to like one of those things where you shoot the things coming down on the arcade game.
Yeah, that'd still be fun.
Yeah. I can't even remember. Space Invaders. That's the one I was. Space Invaders, but with Joseph and his brothers. What a random thing we're talking about here.
They pop up behind sand dunes instead of flying through the sky. They sort of pop up like Duck Hunt. There used to be that Duck Hunt.
Careful.
Yes, I know. It was actually in the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I was waiting for them to say it, but they didn't say it. Anyways, I'll let you go. Before we go, where can people find you on the social medias?
I'm on Instagram. I was on Twitter, but I've come off that because it's so toxic. So I'm just Instagram these days. So yeah, come and say hi.
Yeah, we'll put the details below and your album.
Yeah, Raise the Curtainism.
Oh, I got it wrong. I got it wrong in your introduction. I'll have to re-record that. Sorry. I wrote curtains up.
Oh, no worries. It's the same sort of thing. It means the same thing.
I know, and I'm not unresearched.
I do need to get that listed on Spotify. I still haven't done that, so I need to get that on. I think you can listen to it on YouTube. I've got a gazillion boxes of them in my loft, so if you want to come and get it, you can.
No, it is on Spotify.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You had listeners from Australia the other day.
No way. Oh, I'm thrilled. There you go. I don't know how that happened, but great. Thrilled about that. Thank you.
I have no idea who it was.
It's probably I did say to my producer, can you put me on Spotify? But that sort of conversation never finished. So clearly he did. That's excellent. Marvelous.
There you go. We probably should have looked it up sooner.
I'm going to look it up now.
Raise the Curtain. You're on SimG Productions?
Yes.
I know.
Simon.
Yes, Simon. I've done a ton of stuff with Simon. Yeah.
He did that for me. Yeah, I've known Simon for years. So yeah, he had a really good little label going on. I don't think he does it anymore because obviously the music industry's changed so much. But it was actually before I went on tour with Mary Poppins, I thought I've never really had a reason to do an album. And I thought it'd be nice to have an album on tour because you can sell it, which is quite handy. But also I'd just done The Light in the Piazza, which was amazing. And I kind of wanted some sort of record that I'd actually done it. So I put that, it's basically an excuse for me to sing Light in the Piazza on a CD. So that's what I did. And then added loads of other new musical music to it. And my song from Witches of Eastwick, which was cut, is also on it. So yeah, that's my album. So yeah, go listen to it on Spotify. And I will too, because I haven't yet.
I think I'm going to buy it and then add it to my rotation. So
please do. I would be thrilled. Thank you, JP. Thank you.
Thank you for JP. You know I'm poor. Now you're making me look bad because I can't afford like literally anything.
Right. I'm gonna buy 2 albums to make you look terrible.
Well, please, oh no! Honestly, if I was to buy everyone's things that comes on my show, I would be even poorer.
Bankrupt.
But yeah, tell me about it. Once we can monetize these shows and get some actual paid advertising that isn't our own stuff, like our own novels or our own shows, then I can, afford things along the way. But I did listen to it.
I'm going to hit you up about my idea for a podcast and we'll see how we get on. I'd really like, because I don't really know where to start. So you can help me with that. That would be amazing. If you don't mind.
Hopefully, Izzy, oh my God. I just got Izzy, Lizzie, and Alfie, or as I call them, Elsie, will put in a good word for me. So
absolutely, yeah. Brilliant.
Yes.
I love it, Lizzie being Alfie Parker. Have they done one of your podcasts? I haven't listened to theirs.
Yes.
I've listened to Diane's.
Yeah, awesome.
Diane is one of my bestest. Yeah. I love it. I've listened to like 2 of your podcasts and I love it. So I'm going to listen to loads more of them now that I have met you and I know about it. So that's great. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. No, I greatly appreciate it. Anyways, I'll let you go because it's been nearly 2 hours and I have to record in 6 hours time with Joe DiPietro.
And it must be so late for you. And I'm going to go make some fairy bread now. So I'll let you know how it goes.
Yes, let me know.
Brilliant.
Yes, I want photo on Instagram and tag me in it.
Okay, I will.
Alrighty, a huge thank you to Caroline for joining us. That was so much fun. And sorry about my audio issues. As you might have heard, there was a few bung notes here and there and missing words, and I dropped out a couple of times, but my internet issues are now fixed. Yay! Also, a huge thank you to Caroline's agents at Thrive and to Queen Diane for her help and for sending in a fan question. And also a huge thank you to my arch nemesis, JP or John Paul Yovanoff, for joining me again as a guest co-host. I cannot wait to do it again in the future. Alrighty, so this episode was recorded back in November, possibly even October. That's how long ago it was. It was this whole block of 5 episodes within a 3-week span. It was killer, and then some stuff happened. However, this episode was meant to be airing last year. It got pushed back, and in the meantime, Caroline has since been announced as a cast member of and opened Plaza Suite on the West End with Matthew Broderick and Sarah Jessica Parker. Anyway, so check below for details, and you can pick up tickets to Plaza Suite on the West End, running until April, I believe. Also, you can check out John Paul's network, Musical Theatre Radio, where he's constantly playing musical theatre. That's what it is, Musical Theatre Radio. Plus, he has a bunch of podcasts, including Be Our Guest, where you can currently hear Lizzie B and Alfie Parker from around the world in 80 plays talking about their podcast, and me and Thrash and Treasure. So this week is pretty much MTR cross with the Bloop Network. So we are cross-pollinating and collaborating, and yay! Anyways, I'm overtired as usual, so you can find Caroline at Caroline Sheen. Look below for the details. You can find JP, John Paul, at MTR_tweets. So yeah, check below for the details. You can find us at Thrash and Treasure or at Thrash and Treasure Podcast. Buy the Toniston Tales, read the Toniston Tales, buy Caroline's album, Raise the Curtain, Not Curtains Up. I forgot to re-record the intro, but oh well. Anyways, I'm going to round up. Thank you so much for listening. You at home, you take care, look after yourselves, and we shall see you next time. Hooroo!
Like quicksand!
Because they're touring around the UK.
Yeah.
And they've taken Dolly the dog with them. And what I did was I got them their own theme song for Dolly. So when they bring up what Dolly did, there's a little piano music that plays. So JP was going to be composing it, but he...
My keyboard has like 8 broken keys. I can't play anything on it.
Aw.
I know.
That's no use.